Not long ago, regional Australia represented something simple but powerful: cheaper housing, room to breathe, and a realistic path to owning a home. If city life became too expensive or too crowded, you packed up, moved a few hours out, and reset. That was the deal. That deal is now broken. Across the country, regional towns that were once affordable lifelines have become pressure cookers of rising prices, vanishing rentals, and quiet displacement. What used to be a safety valve for Australia's housing system is now absorbing the full force of it, often without the infrastructure, wages, or job diversity to cope. This isn't a story about lifestyle upgrades or sea change fantasies. It's about locals being priced out, essential workers struggling to stay, and communities slowly hollowing out beneath glossy real estate listings. It's about towns where demand exploded overnight, supply barely moved, and the cost of simply existing jumped faster than incomes ever could. Today, we're looking at 7 regional Australian towns that have been absolutely battered by the housing crisis, places where the numbers don't add up anymore, and where the consequences are already reshaping daily life. And once you see what's happening here, it's hard to unsee it. Number 7. Byron Bay, New South Wales. Starting off our list is Byron Bay, the place where hippies, influencers, and celebrities collide in what can only be described as a real estate bloodbath for locals. Byron used to be this chill beach town where surfers could actually afford to live near the waves they rode. Now it's where Chris Hemsworth has a mansion, and regular people fight over rental properties like they're the last meat pie at the footy finals. The median house price in Byron Bay has skyrocketed past $2 million. Let me say that again, $2 million for a regional town. You know what you can buy for $2 million in most of regional Queensland? A cattle station bigger than some European countries, with enough land to lose your ute for 3 days straight. But here's where it gets really fun. The rental vacancy rate in Byron is sitting at around 0.6%, less than 1%. Finding a rental in Byron Bay is harder than finding a servo that sells decent coffee outside of Melbourne. Healthcare workers, teachers, and hospitality staff, the people who actually keep the town running, they're living in their cars, camping in the hinterlands, or commuting 2 hours each way because they literally cannot find housing. The town that prided itself on being alternative and inclusive has basically told everyone who isn't wealthy to rack off. It's gentrification on steroids, with a side of green smoothies and yoga pants that cost more than a fortnight's groceries at Woolies. Number 6. Hobart, Tasmania. Next up is Hobart. And before you say, wait, that's a capital city, hear me out. Tasmania is basically one big regional area with delusions of grandeur, and Hobart is feeling the housing crunch harder than a drop bear's embrace. Hobart's median house price has more than doubled in the past decade, jumping from around $350,000 to over $750,000. For Hobart, the place is literally on an island at the bottom of Australia, where winter feels like it lasts 9 months, and getting anything delivered takes longer than waiting for the NBN to be installed. But here's the thing. Hobart became trendy. Mona, that weird underground art museum, put Tasmania on the map for hipsters nationwide. Suddenly, everyone wanted to move to Tasmania for the lifestyle, the clean air, and the artisanal cheeses. Mainlanders started buying up properties as investments and holiday homes, and locals got priced out faster than you can say, Tasmanian devil. The rental situation is a disaster. Average rent for a 2-bedroom unit is pushing $500 a week, which might not sound insane to Sydneysiders, but remember this is Tasmania, where wages are lower than the mainland and job opportunities are scarcer than Bunnings snags on a Tuesday. People are living in tents, in their cars, and some are even squatting in abandoned buildings. It's like a weird dystopian novel, except it's real, and everyone's just really cold all the time. Number 5. Ballarat, Victoria. Ballarat, the goldfield city about 90 minutes from Melbourne, is experiencing a different kind of gold rush. And spoiler alert, the locals aren't the ones striking it rich this time. Ballarat used to be the affordable escape from Melbourne. You could buy a proper house with a yard, have a decent commute, and actually save money. Those days are deader than the gold mines that built the place. Median house prices have jumped from around $400,000 to over $600,000 in just a few years. The problem? Melbourne's housing market became so absolutely cooked that people started flooding into regional Victoria like it was the literal gold rush all over again. Remote work during the pandemic made it worse. Suddenly, everyone realized they could work from home, and home didn't need to be in Melbourne's overpriced suburbs. But here's what the tree changers didn't think about. The people who actually live and work in Ballarat, the nurses at the hospital, the teachers at the schools, the retail workers, they can't compete with Melbourne's salaries and savings. Rental prices have gone through the roof, up around 40% in some areas, and vacancy rates are below 1%. The City Council is desperately trying to build more housing, but developers are moving slower than a wombat crossing the road. Number 4. Port Macquarie, New South Wales. Port Macquarie, the retirement haven turned housing hellscape. This coastal town was supposed to be where you moved when you retired with a nice nest egg and wanted to spend your golden years by the beach. Now it's where retirees move and accidentally price out everyone under 60. The median house price in Port Macquarie has blown past $850,000. The rental market is tighter than a crocodile's grip, with vacancy rates consistently under 1% and average rents climbing over $600 a week for a basic house. For context, the median household income in Port Macquarie is only around $1,400 a week. Do the maths. That's nearly half of someone's income just for housing. Young families who grew up in Port Macquarie are being pushed out to surrounding towns with fewer services, longer commutes, and even less opportunity. The town's essential workers, your paramedics, your early childhood educators, your aged care workers. Ironically, many of them caring for the very retirees who've driven up prices. They're struggling to find anywhere to live. The town has this weird demographic where you've got wealthy retirees living in beautiful homes they barely use half the year, and working-age people living in caravans, overcrowded share houses, or just leaving entirely. It's not sustainable, and eventually, who's going to serve the flat white, stack the coal shelves, or provide healthcare when no one can afford to live there? Number 3. Cairns, Queensland. Welcome to Cairns, gateway to the Great Barrier Reef and gateway to homelessness if you're not careful. This tropical paradise has become a tropical nightmare for anyone trying to find affordable housing. Cairns has always been a tourist town, but the pandemic broke something fundamental in its housing market. When domestic tourism exploded because no one could travel overseas, property investors saw dollar signs. Short-term rentals like Airbnb exploded, sucking up rental stock faster than a saltwater crocodile at feeding time. The result? Rental vacancy rates dropped below 0.5% at some point. The median rent for a house jumped to over $600 a week, and good luck finding anything even at that price. People were lining up 50 deep at rental inspections, offering 6 months rent in advance, providing references from their primary school teacher, basically everything short of a legally binding vow. The town's economy runs on tourism and hospitality, industries famous for low wages. So you've got workers earning $25 an hour trying to compete for housing in a market where properties are being snapped up by investors making Sydney or Melbourne money. It's messy. Local workers are sleeping in their cars in caravan parks, camping in the rainforest, or couch surfing indefinitely. Some businesses can't find staff because potential employees literally cannot find anywhere to live. Hotels and restaurants are operating with skeleton crews because half their workforce gave up and moved to places where housing exists. The local government has been trying to crack down on short-term rentals, but it's like trying to stop a bushfire with a garden hose. The damage is done and fixing it will take years. Number 2. Orange, New South Wales. Orange is a lovely town in the central west of New South Wales, known for its cool climate, wine, and increasingly, its complete lack of affordable housing. Orange is about 3.5 hours from Sydney, which used to mean it was far enough away to be affordable but close enough for a weekend visit. Not anymore. The median house price has jumped from around $450,000 to over $1 million in just a few years. That's a bigger jump than a roux on a trampoline. What happened? A perfect storm of Sydney refugees, the pandemic remote work revolution, and lifestyle buyers who wanted a tree change. Orange started appearing in all those top regional towns to move to lists in the Sunday papers, and suddenly everyone wanted in. The problem is, Orange is not a big place. It's got a population of about 40,000 people. It cannot absorb a massive influx of cashed-up city people without consequences. Rental prices have jumped about 50% in some areas, and the vacancy rate is sitting at around 1%. The town's healthcare workers are particularly struggling. Charles Sturt University has a campus there, and students are living in situations that would make a Redfern sharehouse look luxurious. Local businesses are crying out for workers, but workers are crying out for housing. It's a vicious cycle where the town's economy is being strangled by its own success in attracting new residents. Orange is learning the hard way that being discovered isn't always a good thing. Number 1. Bendigo, Victoria. Taking the top spot, or should I say the worst spot, is Bendigo, another former goldfield city, another housing market that's gone absolutely bonkers. Bendigo is about 150 kilometers from Melbourne, making it commutable for the truly desperate. And that desperation has translated into a housing crisis that would make Henry Lawson write a depressing poem about it. The median house price in Bendigo has rocketed from around $400,000 to nearly $700,000 in just a few years. But the real kick in the teeth is the rental market. Average rents have jumped over 30% in 2 years, with the median weekly rent for a house now over $500. The vacancy rate? Under 1%, naturally, because nothing says housing crisis like a vacancy rate that's basically a rounding error. What makes Bendigo's situation particularly brutal is that it's being squeezed from multiple directions. You've got Melburnians fleeing the big smoke. You've got investors buying up properties because Bendigo's still cheap compared to Melbourne. And you've got locals who can't compete with either group. The city has significant social problems, with homelessness increasing dramatically. Rough sleeping has become visible in the CBD, tent cities have popped up, and emergency accommodation is constantly chockers. The city's social services are overwhelmed, and the waiting list for public housing is measured in years, not months. Young people growing up in Bendigo are facing a future where they'll never afford a home in their own town. Essential workers are leaving for places where housing is more affordable, creating workforce shortages in healthcare, education, and emergency services. The city is growing rapidly, but the growth is breaking the social fabric that made it a community in the first place. Local government is trying, they really are. There are plans for more housing developments, incentives for affordable housing, and attempts to crack down on property investors. But market forces are like a road train, and local government is standing on the highway with a stop sign hoping for the best. So there you have it, 7 Australian regional towns where the housing crisis isn't just a statistic, it's a daily reality crushing the lives of ordinary Aussies. The irony is, these towns were supposed to be the escape from unaffordable city living, the places where you could still achieve the Australian dream of home ownership or at least affordable rent. Instead, they've become mini versions of the very thing people were trying to escape. The causes are complex: speculation, investment properties, short-term rentals, remote work, and a fundamental failure to build enough housing to meet demand. The solutions are even more complex and politically challenging, but ignoring the problem isn't working, and eventually, something's got to give. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into Australia's housing dystopia, hit that subscribe button. If you didn't enjoy it, well, I don't blame you. It's pretty depressing. Either way, let me know in the comments if you've been affected by the housing crisis, whether in Australia or anywhere else. Until next time, stay safe, and maybe consider that caravan life isn't looking so bad after all.